must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
In many parts of Africa, there is always a struggle for power. Struggles for power begin from the struggles for internal democratization of our parties or units where we belong when we come to power. The politics of compensational structure, the politics of deficit, beginning from a deficit that I had a deficit. I had a deficit before I was born, or when I was born. I found myself in a poor family. It's the politics of compensation that haunts Africa today. Many people want to take on leadership, but it's the leadership as a basis of where you came from, or the leadership has qualities.
My father bought me my first shoe in 1981 from a Mr. Onyango on the street for 60 shillings because he could not afford the butter shoes. Why am I saying this? Today, as you can see, the gentleman who did not have shoes is sitting at the high table. With the son of the founding father.
Sasa kama nitaambiwa naongea siasa, lakini I'm not, I promise. I have no such intention. But, you know, when you hear people out there, you know, they talk, oh, huyu mtu fulani, dynasty hii, sijui dynasty hii. It's not about that. Leadership is not about where you were born. It's not about where you came from. It's not about the color of your skin. It is not about your tribe. It is just about a desire to serve, a desire to do good, a desire to make a difference in the lives of people. And anybody can do that.
For a leader to be a leader, he must have qualities. Identify himself with qualities of good behavior, qualities of no corruption, qualities of no hatred, qualities of engagement, discussion with others, collective responsibility, listening to the people. These are the qualities. A leader who delivers does not need to have a background. A leader who delivers can deliver without a background of the rich or the poor. Many people in Africa seem to be misinterpreting that once you are born, you directed God to produce you in a particular family. None of us would have been where we are had we actually had a message from God where we would be born. I therefore look at this as compensational politics. Meritocracy is the answer. Meritocracy gives you the position that you yearn for. Meritocracy delivers you a position. Meritocracy gives you what you are doing for the people of Kenya or Uganda or whatever country where you are in Africa. But if you don't have these qualities, even if you are born from a family that had the whole world as theirs, then you cannot be a leader. is therefore very important that leaders who yearn to become leaders in Africa stop the usage of compensational politics. The politics that you want to compensate on others simply because you were poor, simply because you didn't go to a good school, simply because you don't drink in the same place where they drink, simply because you don't eat in that restaurant, simply because you don't have cars. That politics has got syndromes, traits of people who are either corrupt or have hatred or have a problem on itself. I therefore call upon you people to re-examine as Africans that wherever you come from, the background you come from, you are an African. You can deliver something for your country. You don't need to be able, you don't need to come to compensate for the lost past, because with such attitude, you will grab everything and your country will collapse. Thank you very much for listening.
Way back in 1998, the late Secretary General of the United Nations by name Kofi Annan thought of an idea, brought an idea of saying the only way to bring world order where crimes committed that are not punishable in local courts, local countries, regional courts could be taken to an international crimes court. The Rome Statute and Rome Treaty of 1998 July was an offspring of already cooked DSGE intelligence system mechanism to keep Africa under check. Up to date, the French government pays 70% of the salaries of the International Criminal Court, from the porter to the judge, to the prosecutor, and the rest of the other people. This was a project of Kofi Annan and the Kofi Annan Foundation, followed by George Soros as an accomplice of Kofi Annan, brought in by Luis Moreno Campo and the entire system of the West, some countries in the West, to keep check on African countries that did not agree with the policies of the French and to their policies of Western culture. The International Criminal Court Chief Prosecutor Luis Moreno Campo agreed in all this that yes, he has been picking money, extra monies, and we followed the story together with my group in France, powerful investigators in France who worked together with me. And we found out that, truly speaking, Luis Moreno Campo, Fernandez Gomedi, the former judge, the president of the International Criminal Court, laundered money, some coming from American banks themselves. This evidence was put in the ICC. In the case of Bashir versus the chief prosecutor, I filed an application which I still have, and which I'm going to publicize again so that people can know that I was right. I've been vindicated because the American friends now have found that my credibility is real, that I was right when I stood up to say this court is corrupt. This court laundered us money, $17 million of United States money, laundered through Bahamas, through New York banks, back to Ocampo's personal assistant, by then called Fernandez Gomedi Silvia, who later on rose to the ranks of becoming the president of International Criminal Court. It has taken us time, energy, effort, resources to investigate the corruption scandal that have rocked the International Criminal Court. Why should African countries continue to be in the ICC? Yet even the superpowers like America are saying no, we have enough courts to try our own people. Viewers, it has taken Americans over 20 years to listen to our voices when we told Rainberger in Nairobi that this court is a corrupt court.
Today, on the eve of September the 11th, I want to deliver a clear and unambiguous message on behalf of the President of the United States. The United States will use any means necessary to protect our citizens and those of our allies from unjust prosecution by this illegitimate court. We will not cooperate with the ICC. We will provide no assistance to the ICC, and we certainly will not join the ICC. We will let the ICC die on its own. After all, for all intents and purposes, the ICC is already dead to us.
A case of the Kenyan people. These cases in Kenya, the chief prosecutor called Fatou Bensouda put serious statements at the end of the cases, discharge and termination. In legal language, these cases pose a very serious threat in the future. What the people of Kenya can do, and they should do, is today to wrap up the work envelope. Because until this envelope is sealed, thrown in Indian Ocean, the chief prosecutor in the future will come and look for that envelope, use it to incriminate people again. It brings me back to the situation. America is sealing its journey out of the ICC. Why do you wait? Why don't you take this opportunity to seal your journeys out of the ICC? America is quitting, warning that it cannot no longer be a party to such an obnoxious court, a court that has no powers, that talks from this side and vomits from the other side, a court that cuts and pastes evidence, a court that buys witnesses, a court that incites incentives, gives incentives to witnesses of a passport and a relocation, then you tell lies about people. A court that sentences you as per the words there. Why should you leave a country that has a jury that checks on what the judges would do, the excesses of judges, and go to a country, a court that has no jury? Time has come for Africa to think. Do we need this court? Does Africa need this court?
We were way ahead of them in our civilization. They set out to destroy us. And Berlin Conference put the nail on that coffin. So they gave Djibouti the same sovereignty as the United States. They gave Burundi the same sovereignty as China. They gave Togo. You see, the EU realizes individual little countries, they can't survive on the world stage. So they come together as the European Union. Now picture this now. So they cut up this Africa into the tiny little countries, small economies that could never survive on their own, but gave them the same sovereignty as the big boys. So that way, when the little bitty countries go to the world stage for the purposes of development and discussing trade, they're wannabe boxers who are being thrown into the heavyweight boxing ring every day. How do you put China in the same boxing ring with Eswatini? Eswatini has 1.2 million people. China has 1.4 billion people. And you put them on the same stage and say, go at it, negotiate. Are you with me? Yes. This is insanity of the highest order. How have we allowed this carnage to go on? When Eswatini is thrown in the same boxing ring with China and Eswatini collapses before Eswatini even gets on the stage, the world says, well, Eswatini, what's wrong with you? Why can't you take care of your people? Well, China came in and said, Eswatini, give me all your gold or else. And if Eswatini does not agree, they just go on next door to Lesotho and give Lesotho an extra $1. And if Lesotho doesn't take it, they just jump on to Togo, Central African Republic. It was all by design. 1884. They did something else in addition to chopping us up. They also set out to make the African believe that everything African was bad and undesirable, and everything Western, particularly French and British, was more desirable. We call that the legacy of colonization. Prior to that, they had started long working on the slaves. Make them think everything about them, forget anything about Africa. Where you come from is a horrible place, diseased and dying people, constantly at war with themselves, uncivilized. Cut out any communications with them. You need to just know what we tell you. And we call that the legacy of slavery. So that's where you look at where we are today. 135 years later, a system that was put in place to see to it that Africa and her children are forever defeated, that Africa is forever exploited, remains in place today, alive and well. And we sit here and we ask ourselves, why isn't Africa moving forward? Why does Africa continue to be taken advantage of? Well, I'll tell you why, very simply. Until Africa comes together as a continent speaking with one voice, one continent, one people, nothing, and I repeat, nothing is gonna change. As individual little African countries, we are wannabe boxers. We will never make it fighting against the heavyweights. We must speak with one voice. Yes. And this is exactly what our Pan-African leaders wanted to see happen in 1963 when they came together in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. They clearly stated that Africa for the Africans at home and abroad, and that African Union was now. They said Africa must speak with one voice. It is the only way for Africa to take its rightful place on the world stage. Sadly, When they went to Addis Ababa in 1963, they were divided. We had two factions, the Casablanca group and the Monrovia group. The Casablanca group were saying Africa for the Africans at home and abroad, and African Union now. This was Ghana, Guinea, Mali, Egypt, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. Only 7. The other 25 of the 32 who attended were the Monrovia group. They were the nationalists. They said, let's go slow. Let's kind of wait on this Pan-African thing. 55 years later, 56 this year, we're still going slow. As if it wasn't bad enough that we were divided up into the tiny little countries that we are today. The gift that Berlin Conference gave us. One other thing that France did between 1958 and 1961 in the name of giving us our independence as African countries. France forced the Francophone, and I hate that terminology. There is no such thing as Francophone, Anglophone. They made it up. But for the purposes of communication, I will use that. 14 of those countries, they said, in order for you to get your independence from us, you must sign this document. You thought they could have found a better name for the document. The document was called the Pact for the Continuation. I repeat, the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. We are talking about giving you independence, but sign this pact for the continuation of colonization in a different format. And I'm going to highlight some of those issues that they said you must agree to if you are going to be independent. Hello. Maybe we need to redefine the meaning of independence for the French. First, France said, you see, you monkeys, you don't know how to manage your money. We're going to demand that you deposit 85% of your bank reserves with the French Minister of Finance. Under the French Central Bank, under the control of the French Minister of Finance. France is then going to take your 85% bank deposits from each and every one of you. Deposit those funds in the French stock market under the French name. And you may or may not know the returns. Today, as we speak, the latest figures are saying for every 14 billion that France invests in the stock market from Africa, they are realizing upwards of 300 billion in return. Every year, year in, year out, because of these deposits from the African countries, France is taking out of Africa over $500 billion. Now figure it out. For every 14 billion, the returns on the investment are over 300 billion, and they are taking over 500 billion. So in actuality, France is taking out of Africa trillions of dollars year in and year out. From us poor people, Africans. Back to the pact. So should you want to access some of your money that you have deposited with France, you have to submit your country's financial returns. And if approved, you get to get it as a loan. You can only access up to 20% of your money year in, year out as a loan at commercial interest rates. Your own money. As if that was not enough. They said all your minerals discovered, yet to be discovered, all your oil discovered, yet to be discovered. France and French companies have the first right of refusal. If there's anything left over that the French companies do not want, your people might have. To this day. They said you will only use the currency that we created for you because you're special Africans. We call it the CFA. There was the Central African CFA and the Western African CFA, same animal. And that France is the only one that can print it for you. 1958. Fast forward, they're still printing it for us. And if you start misbehaving, they just stop printing your money, and your country's in trouble. They also said your language of instruction shall be French, whether you like it or not. That France will have military presence in your country, that your military can only be trained by France, that you can only buy military equipment from France, that you cannot have any military alliance with your neighbor, and that in the event of war, your allegiance is only to France. And furthermore, because they have military presence in your country, they can invade you without notice should they feel that the interests of France in your country are being violated.
Teach, sister, teach. Speak on, sister.
Fast forward, 2019, nothing has changed. The same people who have the audacity to tell us that we are poor countries, they are taking trillions out of Africa every year. And what is the African doing? Like an obedient, programmed black man, we just give in. We know the facts, but we just do nothing about it. Now, you have to say some of the fears are real, because if France that has sold you inferior equipment to theirs, France that has trained your military to be inferior to their military, they are now in your country. They can invade you. They have the permission to do so. They can destabilize you. And then one might say, why is it that African leaders haven't done anything about this deplorable situation? Well, let me tell you, my brother and sister, they have tried. Documented to this day, 22 coups where leaders were assassinated. France had something to do with it. The first 7, when they decided they were pulling out of the CFA and that they were going to print their own money, they were assassinated. Every time an African leader has tried to do what's best for their country, they were assassinated. Majority of them aided by France. It's a known fact. And then others, they were just mercenaries who felt that when there was a natural resource discovered in one country, they wanted to create a coup. So while the country is thrown into a civil war, they're siphoning the natural resource. We know of one particular story that had we not known about it, it would have been, oh, there we go again, the Africans. In about 25 years ago, a group of young, rich white kids were having fun in Cape Town. They found out that there was oil in Equatorial Guinea that had just been discovered, and they wanted it. So they set out a plan to have a coup in Equatorial Guinea. So while the Guineans are busy fighting a civil war, they will be siphoning the oil. But they made one mistake. There were 2 planes. One was to leave South Africa, stop in Zimbabwe, pick up more ammunition on their way to hunt in Equatorial Guinea. Another plane was taking off in the Caribbean that had this puppet diaspora who was supposed to be the next president. Mugabe wondered why such young people needed such powerful ammunition to go hunt in Equatorial Guinea. In doing his research further, he found out that this was a coup in the making. He allowed them to land in Zimbabwe. They loaded their plane, and just before takeoff, they were all arrested. The ringleader of that group was none other than the son of the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Margaret Thatcher. She had to fly to Zimbabwe and paid handsomely to get her son out. The last one of those prisoners left Zimbabwe about 6-7 years ago. Had these young people succeeded, it would have been another coup. There you go, the Africans again. Such, my brothers and sisters, is the story of your Africa. They don't do coups anymore. They simply create instability. So when you hear of an instability in an African country, ask yourself, what is really going on?
Sister
Because what they are telling you is really going on is just a shiny object. The real issue is over here. And you need to stop before you start being used as an instrument of your own self-destruction.
I really thought I could not live away from the busy city, away from the lifestyle, the coffee shops, and the excitement of the city. Once I was at Pana Ranch Nevasha, I felt like all the constant pressure had instantly gone away, and the adventure was about to begin. The grass is always greener, the air sweeter, the views unimaginable, and the experiences unforgettable. It's like a dream driving down, seeing the beautiful lake and just feeling that breathtaking ambience. Feels like an amazing escape from all the pressure, a never-ending vacation. Pana Ranch Nevasha offers a perfect country living home, each on an acre, with elegant house designs, with a blend of fine wood and well-curved stone to fuse with nature. Pana Ranch captured my imagination in ways I never thought possible for a home. The birds high up in the trees and that spectacular skyline. I saw the freedom that was caged and the future that could start now. Pana Ranch Nevasha, a gated community powered by Premier Realty Limited. This land was made for you. Let's explore.
There are a number of countries in Africa that produce oil. Kenya today became one of the member states of oil-producing countries in Africa. It exported its first oil, where President Uhuru Kenyatta flagged off the oil that was got from Turkana in one of the northeastern parts of this country. But is oil a curse to Africa? Is oil a curse to the entire places where oil is found? We see in the Middle East, the wars in Iran, in Saudi Arabia, in Yemen, in United Arab Emirates. It has developed the area in Qatar. We all have many cities, skyscrapers coming up because of the proceeds from the oil. But can Africa emulate that example and bring the same oil proceeds to make sure that it makes lives better for the people, the betterment of the people of Africa and their families and their other activities? I want to see that. But I might not be able to explain why Africa always falls a victim. Are there external forces that make the oil in Africa to become sour? Is it the competition of the oil companies, Total and Shell BP and others that come to Africa to take the share of the oil? Simply because we have no energy, ability to be able to drill the oil ourselves, refine it ourselves. It is shocking, therefore, to go to Nigeria, for example, a country that produces third in the world for oil production, has no petrol at the petrol station. Is this not a curse? If it's not a curse, what do you call it? Thank you. Thank you very much, viewers, wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much for watching Punchline Africa TV, broadcasting from Nairobi, the capital city, live with good sunshine, good weather, ready for the Christmas visit. Thank you very much, viewers. Viewers, this is a special show of Good Morning Africa. It's one of the shows that will tell the direction of this country. I want to thank the people of Kenya for at least listening to the redemption strategy. I want to thank the people of Kenya, President Uhuru Kenyatta, for taking an initiative of a handshake, which is a redemption strategy that I have sung and sung and sung. Thank you very much. The report will be out now, finally. The report is out on 26th of November, the year of our Lord 2019. The people who have been looking for this report can now enjoy the fruits of a report. The agony of freedom, the agony of pain that Kenya has gone through is addressed in this report. Let Kenyans read it when it comes out. Let there be no speculations. My brothers and comrades in Kenya, I take it very seriously that some of us who have come from conflict-ridden areas, some of us who have seen these conflicts happen, some of us who have ever been involved in conflicts, urge you, Kenyans, for cohesion. A national cohesion is the only way out. Unity of purpose. When this report comes out, let's discuss soberly, intellectually. Let's educate those who might not know some of the aspects of what the gathered information might be. Let's avoid the language of hate. Hate has accrued, and that hate can burst. Viewers, wherever you are in Africa, thank you very much. Today's topic is very easy, but I wanted to talk about one good, most important thing that we needed to do and to talk about. And that is the very seriousness. First, we know about the legacy of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya. He wants to leave a legacy. The legacy for people to understand him. A legacy that once lived a person. A legacy of national unity, national cohesion, national development. You cannot do anything without this cause. What is BBI? Perhaps when people brought building of bridges, the ordinary people in Kenya, some of them started on the social media, or this one, this one. No. The concept of BBI of the 9 points. And if I may remind the Kenyans, some of the points included corruption, elections, development in devolution, you know, among the things that stood up in this entire situation of why should Kenya be dying? Why should be a Kenyan be dying after elections? Why should every 5 years we extend the system for space? Why should there be more morticians delivered? It's the most important thing. You look at it, most countries that have developed went through the stages that Kenya went through. Germany went through the worst stages of Hitler, but it came out with a redemption strategy, a strategy that talks about reconciliation, cohesion, restitution, reparation, to reparate, to restitute, to account, to tell the truth. It leads to one thing: healing. Once those things are said, no nation will fight. Germany today does not fight. Germany today is a free country because it went back to the drawing board. He said, why were we the caste people? Why did we have two Germanys separating in Berlin, the Great Wall of Berlin, instead of having the monument of the Great Wall of China? They went back to reconsider, review, fatigue evaluation, revalue themselves. They came out and said, hello, enough is enough. Germany has to move on. This is the time for Kenya to move on. After the BBI has been delivered, let Kenyans read it. Let's go out there, sensitize the people, tell them what it means to have peace than what it means to corruptly have money. There is a difference between the two. Peace leads to more manufacturing. Peace leads to more houses being built. Peace leads to food being grown without violence. Peace means the infrastructure grows. Kenya, therefore, you have made me proud. Kenya, therefore, you've taken the lead. Kenya, therefore, you stand as a pillar of the Great Lakes region. Kenya, therefore, is an example that they went back to the drawing table. They wanted to see what has gone wrong. President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and Raila Amolo Odinga saw it necessary that enough is enough. You cannot seek power ye when there is a divided, violent state. Those who are used to a violent state have never seen violence before. Most of us from other countries like Uganda, where half of our independence has been spent fighting battles, wars amongst ourselves, killing each other, would not like to see another killing field anywhere in East Africa. I want to take this opportunity to thank them, the two leaders and other leaders, to embrace the unity of purpose, to come on board, to explain this cohesion, the national cohesion. Let it be explained. Can it be attained? Whichever format it can be attained, whether through changing the laws, it is up to Kenyans. It's not up to me. But I am very glad tonight, this morning, this Friday, 22nd October, the year of our Lord 2019, I'm proud man. Proud because the sun has risen. The BBI people have come out and they said, hello, we are coming. The BBI man, BBI people have said, give us a date that we are arriving on 26th. Let the Kenyans take it from there. I want to thank all of you. That's a brief message. I know the people of Biafra still cry for freedom. When you hear of Nigeria cut to pieces by Boko Haram in the north and by Buhari cutting in the south, you are left with no alternative but to embrace BBI, to embrace redemption strategy. The redemption strategy that brought back Nigeria from the precipice of disaster in 1967, when General Yakubu Gowon and General and Colonel, my great friend of Biafra, when they came to fight, the light came back. The light came back. There was ceasefire. Today, Nigeria is in pieces. Boko Haram eats the northerners, created by the state maybe, of some after the collapse of Libya. In the south, the army, the police, the security agencies are killing their own people. The pictures that come from the great United States, the great states of Nigeria, worry any observer like me. Another problem, the pictures that come from Cameroon, in the jungles of the tropics of Africa, worry any observer like me. Is there something that we can do? If we can do it, can we do it now? Can we do it now to save the country? Can we do it to save ourselves? I thank the Kenyans for leading the way in saving. If this BBI report can address electoral malpractices, it can address electoral injustices, it can address systems of election. The most important thing, anybody who has studied political science to any level, is the mechanisms of electing. This is where the contention is. Not that the Kenyans kill each other when there is normality. Kenyans start beating each other just as Ugandans start beating each other when you hear of elections. Today in Uganda, if you entered there, like yesterday, a burial of my great friend Medikagwa, may his soul rest in peace, activist, very strong activist like Matsanga. There was a lot of tension of air. You could see politics already on the streets. When you see President Museveni summoning the police, telling them to change tactics of how to police, there is tension of elections. Can our countries turn into change systems of elections? What kills Uganda is not that people are not democratic, but because of the way we elect our leaders. The electoral process itself is marred with irregularities. Can you believe that some votes in Uganda have not reached, materials have not reached 5 polling stations 5 years past? We are going to another election in early 2021 in February. Such things, tendencies, bring violence. In Kenya, the only way that this part of East Africa and the Central Africa can be stable is to look at the electoral system, mechanism. Don't go into an election again. Hans Kriegler told you that never go into election again with an electoral commission that is haphazard. One leg in the grave, one leg outside the grave. Today, the Kenyan Electoral Commission is one leg in the grave and one leg outside the grave. It can cause you a very, very big disaster. Therefore, Kenyans, fix it. Don't accelerate the gear or the accelerator without fixing the petrol. What brings chaos in the elections in Kenya is the petrol poured by the Electoral Commission. Period. The confusion of not even knowing how to interpret the law. You allow people to fight. You allow people to bribe. You allow people to use all sorts of, manners to intimidate voters, to fight, to throw stones. Nobody is in court. Isn't it time again for Africa to review whether Africa needs elections? Does Africa need elections? Are we ready to accept the results? Are we ready to concede? Do we concede elections in Africa after defeat? Do winners look at their opponents as not the vanquished, but as the people who took part in an exercise where there must be always a winner? Elsewhere on the African continent, Zimbabwe faces a huge task. Zimbabwe faces a huge task of fending itself against George Soros. The George Soros syndrome that is driving the agenda in Africa today has reached high proportions in several countries. In Kenya, it has come back through mass demonstrations that are organized against projects of China. Remember, in China, Hong Kong, Mr. George Soros buys the masks for, if you ask the relationship between Chinese and Mr. George Soros, he says interests only, because two are not related at all. Mr. George Soros is a Jewish. Chinese are Chinese. But he sends money to destabilize countries in Africa. He sends money to give people to stand up, even those educated, those who are educated on his scholarships. Don't speak about the evil that takes place in Africa here. Who else is going to speak? If Kwame Nkrumah is dead, Nyerere is dead, Sekuturi is dead, America bro, Patrice Lumumba, Gabriel Nasa, Haile Selassie, Jomo Kenyatta, Milton Obote, they are dead, they are gone. Who else can speak on their behalf? Nyerere used to speak with the voice like mine. You see it? Very small voice. Ndugu zangu, who can speak for this Africa? Who can speak for the East African community? The main topic today, and I want to bring our viewers to what we want to discuss today. I want to give you the opportunity to know what is in our news headlines in Kenya. Briefly, the Star newspaper said, the man who fell out of the plane, I used to work for Sky News. Had I been there today in Sky News, such a story would not have appeared. Why? Because I know Africa. I know the difference between Shinyaru and Shinyalo. The problem with this international, when I was there, we never used to have this type of mess. We can't go a man who is in prison and you say he has fallen out of a plane. So Sky News, my services, I'm an old boy of your club. My services are needed. There are stories that you can verify with me as an African expert of the Great Lakes region who knows the mythology of certain people. I could easily tell this is from Rwanda, this one is a Tanzanian, this one is a Ugandan, this one is a Kenya Maasai. From the study of mythology, the shape, the discussion, the language, the tongue. So had Sky News deployed very good investigative operators, the story would not cost them what I hear people are planning to cost them. Another story, we have heard of death of a journalist. What is happening to our society in Africa? People are dying, especially from relationship involved with women, men. There is one thing that my late father told me, and I want to tell it to this young man. The young men today who are seduced to go to women's houses. Please be careful. If you love your lover, even if you don't have money, you better sleep on a tree with her, because there will be open space. This being a Friday, we shall have a chat, a simple chat, open space you can run when the owner arrives. So some of the problems here are because the younger men today go into houses of women, and women don't tell who is renting, paying water, paying DSTV, paying the car loan, paying the house, paying for rent for the car shop is running in the town. You get yourself entangled in a woman's house, inside the house. If you're a man, you are dead. Like me or don't like me, I don't care. For me, if you like me, we'd rather sleep in the tree or outside. But I will never go to a man's house or a woman's house, even if we sleep. If I'm to sleep, I will sleep when the window is open. And you know what I mean, you men. To avoid some necessary, unnecessary. But it is not a license to kill. It's not a license to murder. It is not a license. I knew this younger man here during the days of ICC. He's lost his life. And that is what it is. Today, once life is gone, it's gone. Avoid going to women's houses. Because women also avoid telling lies. Tuambie ya ukweli. Sema ya ukweli. Shida gani ambayo iko hapo hapo? Shida gani? Sema nyumba hii nakombolewa na mtu mwingine. So thank you very much, viewers, for listening to this. I want to bring the second segment of our show. Let's take a break. Production team, then we come back. When we come back, we want to see a short picture of a ranch where you want to buy your house, build your house, and then we can talk about it. Let's see what it is.
I really thought I could not live away from the busy city, away from the lifestyle, the coffee shops, and the excitement of the city. Once I was at Pana Ranch Nevasha, I felt like all the constant pressure had instantly gone away, and the adventure was about to begin. The grass is always greener, the air sweeter, the views unimaginable, and the experiences unforgettable. It's like a dream driving down, seeing the beautiful lake and just feeling that breathtaking ambience. Feels like an amazing escape from all the pressure, a never-ending vacation. Pana Ranch Nevasha offers a perfect country living home, each on an acre, with elegant house designs, with a blend of fine wood and well-curved stone to fuse with nature. Pana Ranch captured my imagination in ways I never thought possible for a home. The birds high up in the trees, and that spectacular skyline. I saw the freedom that was caged, and the future that could start now. Pana Ranch Naivasha, a gated community powered by Premier Realty Limited. This land was made for you. Let's explore.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
I want to call upon the people of Ambazonia today, wherever you are in the diaspora in Ambazonia itself, that in a struggle you are bound to have divisions. But divisions should not divert you from the main focus, the main challenge. We have struggled to expose the happenings, the human rights abuses in Ambazonia. The army has killed hundreds and hundreds of thousands, burnt houses of people, internet was cut off, schools were closed, dispensaries, hospitals were burnt down. Ambazonians should not be intimidated by Paul Robia. It is not upon the leaders of Ambazonia, because I am not from Ambazonia. But I've played a pivotal role in making sure that I loud out the voices, I put out the call, I call upon AU, EU, United Nations, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International. Many of them have listened to some of the things that I say here. Welcome back to the second and last segment, where we are going to discuss a number of issues. One of the issues that we shall table, we have already talked about BBI, the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta. He wants to leave a united Kenya. And we have talked about today's date with arrival of BBI on 26th of November. All of us, the crew, everybody will be at the State House, wherever, or Harambee House, to see what is supposed to be coming out. What has come out? What has taken all this time, 1 year and some months? What they have gathered for us, for the people. You know, the unit of Kenya is the unit of East Africa. If Kenya is united, the entire East Africa is united. Thank you very much. And those who want to purchase houses, you saw the advert, take the number and call the gentleman or the lady who will answer you. They are the owners of those properties at the moment, selling them in Naivasha. For holiday homes, the homes that you can, for a long time, build slowly. Even if you are in London, you could come and relax. Thank you. Good afternoon. I believe it is already afternoon. I don't know. Yes, 2 minutes past 12. Top of the hour, East African community. The East African community is 20 years old. But the question now, the question now, is it dying? Is it about to die? Is it dead? The three words might mean the same, but one gives us hope. One gives us hope. Will it survive? The East African community, I am one of the few last students who did my East African certificate of education. My O-levels in 1974. My certificate level is East African Certificate of Education. We are the last people before Idi Amin finally destroyed the institution of the East African community. Therefore, I'm seriously attached to the integration of East Africa, just as I'm seriously attached to the integration of Africa. But factors within the East African community point to a different direction as to whether 20 years there will be an integration. There will be an East Africa integrated in one organization, a commission set, bringing 200 million over people under one management, without borders, without customs, without immigration checks, but working as if we were in the same African setup concept before the arrival of Dr. David Livingstone, Captain Lugard, Kraf, Abadeas, all these guys who arrived here and taught us how to divide ourselves in two countries called Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Burundi, and Congo, Zaire. Remember, the worst part of our colonizers is they divided us on religion, religious aspect. One of the religious aspects is very clear. For example, the former Church of Uganda was called Church of Uganda, Rwanda, and Burundi, and another part in Congo. So one bishop could run all the way from Nimule up to Burundi, Bujumbura. This type of divisions are still present today. We have tried to eradicate them. They become bigger until countries expand to wars. As we speak today, the border between Uganda and Rwanda is closed. Rwandese are not allowed to fly directly into Uganda. Rwandese fly to Kenya, then from Kenya, they go to Uganda. Surely, my leaders in Africa, in East Africa, surely, the two brothers, President Museveni, you are a leader. President Kagame, you are a younger man to me, because my age, I'm slightly older by at least 2 years or so. So when you look at President Museveni is older, he should tone down, talk to the younger generation. After all, President Kagame was part and parcel of President Museveni. One taught the other, your teacher can never lack some idea which is different from yours. I am preaching this unity, the unity of purpose, because people don't want to hear the truth. The postponement of the East African Community meeting in Rwanda on 30th of November is a clear manifestation created by an invisible enemy who wants to destroy East Africa. I have been telling people time and time again that East Africa, we have a danger. We discover the oil. It could become our nightmare, our Waterloo. There is a country in Europe that always leaves a trail of blood. And if the leaders in East Africa don't listen to my voice, we might end up in a bloody situation. As we speak now, there is tension between Burundi and Rwanda. Rwandese don't travel freely to Burundi. And the Burundians don't travel freely to Rwanda. Ugandans want to travel freely to Kigali. But Rwandese are not allowed to travel to Uganda. Is there something that is breaking us apart? Reading the book of Okonkwo, of Chinua Achebe, Obiorika told Chinua Okonkwo, and Obiorika said, I quote page 53, I'm quoting it from, because I read it in 1972 for my O-levels in 74. Obiorika says, perhaps you have been away for too long. The white man has put a knife on the things that held us together. There is a bicycle. There is a bicycle in the village that drinks white milk. Things have changed. The center cannot hold anymore. Things have fallen apart. Okonkwo, Amalinze the cat, the best wrestler, man who rose up with Pan-Africanism zeal to oppose everybody, said, no, whatever happens here, I'll take a decision. I'll fight. One of the dangers of Africa is we are divided. I'm bringing this story so that the younger generation remember that there is lack of patriotism. We don't have patriotism of the Lumumbas, of Nkrumas, of Haile Selassie, of Gabriel Nasser, of Nasser giving refugees from Kenya who are fighting for freedom, passports to pass Cairo. You can't have leaders today who can do that in Africa. They're not there. Of Kwame Nkrumah giving Mugabe asylum when Ian Smith was looking for him. Very few leaders in Africa except Kenya. In Kenya, there is that still Pan-Africanism strong. We can't. We don't have. Everybody is looking at the colonizer. Fortunately, the British have withdrawn very quietly. They did what they did. They did what they can. They brought us the English that we speak. They don't want to touch. Now we have a new master called the French. France is at the center of all conflicts that you see in Africa. From Libya to Ivory Coast, to DRC Congo, to Burundi, And now, here, around here, the purpose is to dismember this region, never to integrate. Today, East African communities, 20 years. What can we achieve? What have we achieved in 20 years? What have we achieved apart from a Ugandan working in Kenya and a Kenyan working in Uganda? Apart from having the same language that unites us, the Swahili, what have we achieved? When you see a Kenyan going to Tanzania to set business, obstacles arise. They tell you you're Kenyan. What have we achieved? A Rwandese crossing over to Uganda, a Ugandan going to Rwanda. Questions arise. Are you a rebel? Are you an intelligence officer for Museveni? Or are you an intelligence officer for Kagame? Talk the truth about these things. Some of us have been caught up in the middle for speaking up. And that's why I come here to speak up, because you are misunderstood. When you speak a good word for Kagame, President Museveni misunderstands you to be a Kagame follower. When you speak something good for President Museveni, you are misunderstood. This is happening, fellow East Africans. Let's face the truth. This is happening. You could become a collateral damage in the middle when you don't even know what is happening. Yet these two gentlemen are the ones that lead those two countries. Opposition leaders on both sides are accused of being funded by Uganda and Tanzania and Rwanda. Rwanda says you are funding opposition leaders. Uganda says we are funding. Let's not hide this thing anymore. Put this thing in the limelight of all of us Africans, grown-ups, at the age of 64. Let's discuss it. Don't hide it in your suitcases in State House in Kigali and the State House in Kampala and destabilize the region. What is destabilizing the region are the French oil companies. And for me, as a Ugandan, I'm neutral, but I am not going to sit to watch my states of East African integration spill to smaller particles and start fighting. Speak it up. If you are in opposition in Uganda, you are labeled to be funded by Kagame. If you are in opposition in Rwanda, you are able to be funded by President Museveni. What's the problem, man? You two gentlemen. One is an elite of East Africa. The other one was coached by the same man. The teacher and the student. What is the problem? Ambia why East Africans, let them know. We can't keep on hiding. We are being used. We are being given a proxy war. There is a proxy war in this region. Jermaine, I've been saying for 6 years, there is a proxy war here. If it doesn't explode from the Indian Ocean oil blocks, it will explode from the Congo forests and between Rwanda and Burundi and Uganda and Rwanda. Almost 1 year, businessmen whose trucks are stuck in those countries cannot earn a living. Almost 1 year, some of us who earn a living by transporting goods from one place, we are begging 1 shilling. We are on the streets begging people to help us. We can't speak about this. You are not hurting. President Museveni is eating. President Kagame is eating. What about the businessmen whose trucks are stuck Some of us are here victims. We need to earn a living. We need to carry our goods and be paid. We don't need to beg people. What has happened? You people quarrel. The other time you went to Angola to solve this problem, what happened? I think I'll pick a phone and talk to the Angolan friend of ours, of mine. This is too much. Maybe there's something which is not wrong. People earn a living. Trucks are on both sides, heaped. People's goods, they have lost. The trade between Kenya and between Uganda, Kenya is going to be affected. You cannot, take a truck into Rwanda. How many trucks did you see here coming from Rwanda? 0. You closed the border. You even restricted people yourselves. You gentlemen, sit down and solve this problem. One is an elder older than all of us. And the other one is a son or a cousin. They sit down and talk. Let President Uhuru Kenyatta intervene. Bring the two leaders on table. Your Excellency, I know you have a lot of things on your table. But the problem here is that lack of frankness. If you are an opposition leader and you disagree slightly with President Museveni in Kampala, you are labeled Kagame man. On the other side in Rwanda, if you disagree with His Excellency Kagame and maybe say, no, this is too much, you are labeled, you are working for Uganda. So, what is the problem here? What's the problem here? That's why some of us have said, let's remain neutral. Because you can't now discuss with a Rwandese brother. They find you in a hotel. Someone will pick a phone and say, I saw him in London with so and so. I think they are doing this. This is happening. That is crude intelligence gathering. Stupidity of the highest degree. Yes, I agree. There might be some people who solicit help to go and fight their governments. Something some of us went through in the 80s. We shook hands. We finished. You don't need to. But imagine of traders who have been trading with Rwanda. Traders who have been trading with Uganda. Rwandese goods need to travel to Uganda up to the coast. Trucks are held there. 6 months down, 9 months down, trucks are still held there. You're a businessman who has got a loan from the bank. You rely on this to pay your bills. You rely on this to send your children to school. I am appealing to these brothers to open this border because you don't know how many people you have pained. You don't know how many people hate the way you have closed this border. You don't know how many prayers people kneel down, pray every day about the closure of the border and the not allowing the goods to flow from either side. It's very bad. Because you have killed people's livelihood. You have killed families, the people who rely on the transportation, the drivers who rely on, they have come back at their homes, they have left the trucks in Kigali. Some have left the trucks in Uganda, they have gone back to Rwanda or back to Tanzania, wherever they come from. The East African community, 20 years on, is it dying, dead, or about to die? My hope and my faith lies in resurrection. It must work. The integration of East Africa must be there. We are over 200 million people. We can give a challenge if we are united. But if we are divided, we shall not be able to stand the currents of Trump, who is even trying to isolate us more and more. I want to take this opportunity finally to thank all those who have worked behind the scenes to make sure that the relationship in East Africa remains intact, especially President Uhuru Kenyatta, who seemed to be at the heart of, looked at as uniting factor. Your Excellency, you are encouraged. I know you have enormous things, big things to do, many things, especially in your own country, but don't give up on the two brothers, on the senior brother and the younger brother. It is a huge task, but let's together move. Remember, the East African community was formed way back. We used to have the East African Airways. I still remember the uniforms of the ladies, the crew. We used to have the East African Railways. Some of us who used to use the railway to go to schools, to Kampala, to Nairobi, to Mombasa, to Das. We used to go by rail. It was one of the most prestigious institutions. In fact, if you come back to your school after the holiday and you tell your fellow students or peoples that I went to Mombasa by rail, you ate food, you are being served, you know, and it was on time. If it was to arrive in Malawi at 2, it arrives at 2. Not 1 minute less, not 1 minute more. We enjoyed those standards, and we hope one day Africa will come back, rise again. For the people of Biafra and the people of Cameroon, Ambazonia, we shall address your problem on Sunday with the Africa Showdown show. But we call upon President Buhari to stop killing people in southeastern Nigeria. Please, you have killed enough. Stop it. Talk to them. Open dialogue. Give them a referendum if they want. I want to thank Ethiopia for giving a successful referendum in Asmar, in Amar, in one of the self-autonomy states of Ethiopia. This is the type of bold leadership that people want in Africa. Don't molest your fellow people because you don't govern trees, you govern human beings. Thank you very much, all of you. I leave these few minutes for a few adverts to be played. And if you have any advert anywhere in Africa, you want to put it online, please contact us on telephone number which is under there, +254 795 638 145. It is here. I'll take your advert and do it the way. Remember Sudan, South Sudan, you have a few days, over 90 days left now. Sign the agreement or face the tribunal. With those few words, I want to thank my staff who have been with me for the last 4 years. We stand with you. Continue doing the good work. We have a date with BBI. We need to speak up to help President Uhuru Kenyatta to spread the message. You realize that digital platforms are now the essence because people cannot run to television in a train. They use television on the phone. So I I should be congratulated for having started the first digital platform in East Africa, East and Central Africa, that does its television on digital format. I think I deserve a clap and a wine for this. It is a great performance for one man to do what I can. The rest now can copy. All these stations have come back and now they have two types. They start, then they tell you go online. I'm already online. Most of the people don't watch the TV. They are online. If you go to a train, everybody from Mombasa to Nairobi, everybody is online. Things are changing when television, conventional television will not be anymore. I have left a legacy. And I stand for this legacy. It will continue to work. Punchline Africa TV rises up on digital platform, the master. We want to thank over our 18 million followers worldwide, together with South Cameroon Broadcasting Corporation, our sister partners. Thank you very much. There is nothing that will change us. We are together. We move on. We thank YouTube. We thank Instagram. We thank Twitter. We are on all those platforms. We ventured there where nobody could venture there. And we are here. 4 years past, we are here. And we shall continue to be here. Of course, there are difficulties, ups and downs, including like what you have seen, our trucks held, our money cannot come, but we shall flown. We shall flown. We shall grow. Africa will stand and we shall continue to spread the good image of Africa on the digital platform. If there is any digital platform that has more numbers than us, then let's compete. Thank you very much, viewers. Thank you very much, Africans. Thank you very much, all of you. Avoid drink driving. Avoid anything that can bring. Let's cross over to NTV. I understand, pick up the signal. I've been informed that President Uhuru Kenyatta is on national television. Can we pick up that signal right now, production, before it is 12:30? He's right on TV. President Uhuru Kenyatta is live on television. Let's pick his signal right now. Is it possible? Can anybody tell me?
I really thought I could not live away from the busy city, away from the lifestyle, the coffee shops, and the excitement of the city. Once I was at Pana Ranch Naivasha, I felt like all the constant pressure had instantly gone away, and the adventure was about to begin. The grass is always greener, the air sweeter, the views unimaginable, and the experiences unforgettable. It's like a dream driving down, seeing the beautiful lake and just feeling that breathtaking ambience. Feels like an amazing escape from all the pressure, a never-ending vacation. Pana Ranch Naivasha offers a perfect country living home, each on an acre, with elegant house designs, with a blend of fine wood and well-curved stone to fuse with nature. Pana Ranch captured my imagination in ways I never thought possible for a home. The birds high up in the trees, and that spectacular skyline. I saw the freedom that was caged, and the future that could start now. Pana Ranch Naivasha, a gated community, powered by Premier Realty Limited. This land was made for you. Let's explore.
fellow Africans, I took this petition to the court in order to stop any future usage of falsehood and false documents, procured witnesses of the Waki Commission. I took this petition to the court 4 years ago in order to make sure that the Chief Prosecutor of International Criminal Court does not use this evidence anytime in the future, whether tomorrow or 10 years to come, to refer to this evidence because the evidence was fake. It is with this dismay and with this courage that I took to go to court in Kenya to seek a judicial review and to redeem the credibility of both those accused and the victims of this catastrophe that occurred in Kenya, that I decided to seek to expunge this report from the reports and the statute books of Kenya. It is unfortunate that the 3 judges in Kenya, whom I will name now, Judge Kanyi Kimondo, Judge Aburil, and Judge Onyengo, all of them sat down and gave very silly, flimsy, prudish, sardonic ruling against our petition. I want to tell the Kenyans that I have done my best. I want to be on record that should this thing reappear again, don't call me. Should it reappear again, don't say I never told you. Should the Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court use this fake evidence again against Kenyans, don't say I did not tell you. My role was to go and remove these obnoxious toxins from the books of the Republic of Kenya. I therefore want to tell the world that my torrid road, a long road that I've taken in search for this envelope, has ended in Kenya so far. But I want to announce that Kenya is not the only state party in international law. Kenya is not the only state party. I will in the future, very soon, detail to you which other state party I'm going to seek this envelope to be expunged and to be made public to the people of the world. I want to thank you all. I want to tell you that a detailed document which is entitled My Long Road, Torrid Road to Work Envelope will be found on www.panafricanforumltd.com. You can read it, you can dissect, you can see the days, the long road, what I took, what I did, referenced, well documented, and may God help you that at one time somebody in Kenya will stand up to say thank you very much.
First of all, let me thank you. I've prepared 2 papers which I believe will be circulated because they'll not be projected. But if you can see, first of all, I want to agree with the Honorable Minister. I've done 2 pictorials. One of them is described as Africa at the dinner table. And if you look at Africa at the dinner table, Africa is on a plate and it is meat. And the diners at the dinner table are France, the United Kingdom, the United States, the European Union, the Chinese, and progressively the Arabs. And my second picture is the African hotspots. It's not visible from there. But if you look at Africa today and you make a clean sweep with your mind, there are different conflicts of different intensity in Somalia, in northern Mauritania, in northern Mali, in Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of Congo, Guinea-Bissau, in the Cameroons, in South Sudan, and one can go on and on. And there is a sense in which Africa has always been alive to the question of interference. I will refer this audience, particularly those who are starting, to take time and read the 32 odd speeches that were made in the month of May 1963 by the then heads of states and government of independent African states, the 32 of them. And there are 2 speeches that I want to isolate for this presentation. One was by David Dacko of Central African Republic. And in thanking Emperor Haile Selassie and Kwame Nkrumah on that day, he said that we must never forget that the colonial power has not left us. We must recognize that he did not go willingly. And if we don't check them, they'll come back again. And what would little Central African Republic do against them? Today, he is right. Today, if we remember the activities of France and how they have propped up the regime of Jean Bedel Bokassa, he was right. Today, as the Honorable Minister has indicated, Africa remains the only continent in the world that is referred to in these terms, Anglophone, to mean that we are a sphere of our erstwhile colonizers. About 2 weeks ago, there was a meeting of the Commonwealth in London, England. And a friend of mine who is an Anglophile sent me the photograph very gleefully, saying this is a meeting of 53 equal states. I told him, no. If it was so, why is it that the leadership of the Commonwealth is hereditary rather than rotational? In other words, in the minds of the British, her former colonies are still under her tutelage. And I want to submit to us that in the minds of what I'll call the conceptual West, they think they have a divine duty to instruct Africans what to do. True. And in the minds of many African leaders, they think that they have a divine duty to accept what they are told. That, in my view, is what the Honorable Minister was talking about, the mindset. And this is something that has been examined. We have seen France and its very pernicious presence in Africa. We know what they did in Burkina Faso against Thomas Sankara. We know what they did in Mali or the Sudan against Modibo Keita or against Sekou Touré in Guinea. Pernicious to the core. The Portuguese, we know what battles had to be fought in that area. And let me put this very bluntly. When the former leader of Portugal, Marcelo Caetano, was asked, why can you not allow the colonies to gain independence? This is what he said in substance. As I have examined world history over the years, the following have emerged: that the Caucasians have been responsible for monumental discoveries in the development of man. So have the Chinese, so have the Arabs. But the Africans have been responsible for nothing. They are only fit as hewers of wood and drawers of water. And I want to submit to you who are present here that in the conceptual West's unguarded moments, or guarded moments, that is what they think. And that is how they relate to Africa. So the whole idea that they will interfere is something that they think is their God-given duty. I said there were two speeches in 1963 that I wanted to refer to. I referred to David Dako. The second one was the speech by Kwame Nkrumah. And Kwame provided the solution. He did not complain about colonialism. He said, we must live here with one army, with one command. We must live here with one currency. We must live here with one currency, one country. I do not know where its capital will be, but I suggest Leopoldville or Bangui. Other leaders may have their thoughts. Kwame was right, but who listened to him? Several years down the line, and I've said it in my paper, there were coup d'etats which were engineered, there were mutinies which were engineered, and other forms of destabilization. And I want to believe that the person who actually said it very well in the 1980s was the former American President Ronald Reagan. He said, the United States of America does what is in her best interest. And I agree with him. Does Africa do what is in her best interest? Do African leaders do what is in the best interest of Africa? Interference will be there in very blatant and brazen ways and in subtle ways. I've always asked, until very recently, how many African countries manufactured bullets? Very few. Until very recently, how many African countries, in fact, how many African countries manufacture jet fighters? How many African countries are involved in the arms industry? Some of the leading conceptual West countries which pontificate to us about prizes, peace prizes, are the leading manufacturers of landmines. And if you look at their foreign exchange earners, it is the military and security items. So they say with their mouths, what do they not believe in their hearts? In Kiswahili we say, vita vya panzi furaha ya kunguru. That when the locusts are fighting, it is the joy of the hawk. Because when they kill each other, they get the food easily, dead. It is in the best interest, I dare submit, without fear of contradiction, that the elite in the conceptual West does not want Africa to stabilize, despite their assertion to the contrary. And you'll see it in every country because conflict is a major industry. Today, you look at South Sudan and the many peace conferences that are being held, but if you ask who supplies the arms, who provides safe havens, it is the conceptual West. And when I use the term conceptual West, I'm saying that it extends to countries which are geographically not in the West, like Australia or Canada. So I'm submitting in answer to your question, Joe, that interference is there, and it is part, to use this old cliche, of the neo-colonial project. The neo-colonial project requires that Africa must remain within the sphere of influence of these states. Today, if you look at the United Kingdom, which has left Europe, one would have thought that those are their cousins and that they should sit in comfort with them. You will now see their involvement being de-emphasized in Europe and their interest and appetite growing towards the Commonwealth. Because in the Commonwealth, they are the major domos. They'll tell us what to do. In Europe, they have to grapple with the Germans and the French, and they don't like it. That is the unspoken bit of it. The French also are in Europe, but the Germans are too strong, and they don't like it. So they want to hold Côte d'Ivoire, Gabon, and tell them what to do. I do not know how many of you saw the press conference that was attended by President Macron of France and Nana Addo of Ghana. And when Nana Addo spoke as an African should, you could see the body language of the French president. How dare this man speak this way? In other words, I'm saying that interference is the mother's milk of European economies. But to answer your second question, they have their own recruits who Professor Philip Nying'ura will be speaking here. To use the old vocabulary of those days, they have the people you call their comprador bourgeoisie. You must remember. The comprador bourgeoisie are Africans with black faces, but essentially they are doing the bidding of these powers. They are the ones you'll find them in different spheres. And they will be present. They are in your cabinet, but they are actually representatives of the foreign intelligence agencies of those countries. We know this. If you look at the declassified papers from the United States, we now know that some of leading cabinet ministers in many African countries were working for the CIA or some Western agencies. So you are sitting in cabinet, and in these days of the mobile phone, they are possibly texting their masters in Europe and America. So interference is also exacerbated by these comprador bourgeois for their own benefits. And it has never changed, Honorable Minister. In the early days of slavery, they gave some of the chiefs mirrors and alcohol. Today, what they give them are flats in Paris or in Dubai. And that is what makes them undermine Africa. The third mode of interference is through institutions. Look at the competition as it is now. There is a new entrant into the market that is called China. China is very subtle. Many people wrote the obituary of Rwanda in 1994. 20 years down the line, it has been demonstrated that Africans can actually do it. Between 1983 and 1987, I think Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso also demonstrated that it can be done. We saw in Somalia, despite their problem. So my prescription is African unity. Africa must now begin to negotiate initially in terms of blocks, SADC, ECOWAS, East African Community, and ultimately as African Union. And lo and behold, we must do it. And I've always said this cliche, we must do it, because if we don't do it, we will be done. Thank you.